So transformations of exponential functions. Over here is the format that we have to recall. So the A value in the front. If this number, the absolute value of it is greater than 1, it is a vertical stretch. This is the A value. Now, if it is less than 1, it represents a vertical compress. And if the A is negative, if you have a negative in the very front, then the function is reflecting across the x-axis. Okay? These three things is what the A value will tell you. All right? The next letter that we need to pay attention to is the H. That is up there with the exponent. You may or may not see it in parentheses, but it is part of the exponent. So H is the horizontal shift. If there is a minus sign in there, let's see, it shifts to the left. And if there's a minus sign, it shifts to the right. It's the opposite. So just as an example, say you have base 2, and up here you have x minus 3. That means this would go to the right 3 spaces. Okay, and then the K value on the very end, this is a vertical shift. Meaning if it's positive, it'll shift up, and if it's negative, it will shift down. So these are the same rules that we did for the previous units when we did square roots. When we did quadratics, same rules still apply. All right, so our first example, they just want us to name the transformations. So guys, we have a negative in the very front. What will this represent? Yep, this will be a reflection across the x-axis. Now, 4/3 is just your base. That is not a part of your transformation. This +2 in the exponent means it will go to the left 2, and then the +7 means up 7. For this one, the 1/2, your A value is 1/2. That is between 0 and 1. So this is a vertical compress. So we have a vertical compress by 1/2. This -4 in the exponent means it went to the right 4. And the -2 means down 2. The 5 is just your base. That is not a part of your transformation. Okay. So those are just descriptions of the transformations. Let's look at a graph now. So I'm going to pause here. I want y'all to look at y'all's practice and tell me which number you would like me to do. Can someone please read me what number 7 says?
X equals 1/2 times 3
to the power of x plus 1, like this? Yep. Thank you. All right, so let's write the transformations, or just tell me the transformations. What does the 1/2 do? Good, vertical compress. Your base is 3, and then it goes up 1. Yeah? All right, so we're gonna make a table so that we can graph this. Some of the information that I can already do. What is the asymptote? 1. It's always this plus this, the number that makes it go up or down, that is always your asymptote. So I already know the asymptote will be y equals 1. And the domain is always all real numbers. And because there's not a negative in the front, I know everything is just going to be bigger than my asymptote. No equal to signs because we cannot equal the asymptote. Everything will be above this line 1. That's what you can tell based off of the equation. All right, so let's go ahead and draw this. I'm gonna make a table like we did yesterday. All right, let's do let's plug in some numbers. I'll plug in a -2, a -1, 0, 1, and 2. Let's plug in a -2. What would that be? I'll plug it in. 3 and a -2. Then we want half of it and then add 1. So if I have a -2 exponent, do you guys remember what I do? Yep, we'll do the reciprocal, so it'll be 1/3 and it'll be a +2 then. So this will become 1/2 times 1/9 plus 1. This is 1/18 plus 1, which is what? 1 divided by 18 is 0.055. So 0.055 plus 1 is 1.055. Okay, let's do the next one. We're gonna plug in a -1 this time. Okay, so now I'm gonna plug in a -1. So I have my base 3, but this time we're plugging in -1. So to make it a +1, we'll have to flip it, so it's 1/3. So this will be 1/6 plus 1. And 1 divided by 6 is 0.167. Plus 1 is 1.167. All right, let's plug in a 0 this time. If I plug in a 0, what does 3 to the power of 0? It's 1. What's half of 1? 0.5 plus 1? 1.5. All right, let's plug in a 1 this time. What's 3 to the power of 1? 3. And what's half of 3? 1.5 plus 1 is 2.5. Okay, let's plug in a squared this time. 3 squared is 9. And what's half of 9? 4.5 plus 1 is 5.5. All right, so let's graph this. At -2, I'm very close to 1. I'm like right there. At -1, I'm also very close to 1. 0, 1.5. Okay, 1, 2.5. 2, 5.5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so it's growing. There we go. And just like my equation has a +1 here, everyone draw that asymptote. Your asymptote is at 1. And so notice our point gets really close to 1, but doesn't touch it. It's at 1.05. And if you continue plugging in more negative numbers, you'll get closer and closer to 1. All right, so let's answer the in behavior. Well, what's my y-intercept? Yep, right here. My y-intercept is 0, 1.5. Okay, and let's talk about the in behavior. As x goes to infinity, so as we travel to the right, what's happening to our graph? It's going up, so it goes to infinity. And as your graph goes this way towards negative infinity, what's happening to your graph? It goes to the asymptote, right? Where is the asymptote? 1. There we go. That's how we do this. So I'm going to pause it here. One last thing I need to add. These questions ask you to identify the parent function. The parent function here, the parent function is just the base. So 4/3 to the x, right? That's without the reflection, that's without the left 2 and the up 7. Okay, here the parent function is just 5 to the x. 5 is your base. This is what it was before you vertically compressed it, before you moved it to the right and moved it down. Make sense, guys? So on those questions where it asks for the parent function, this is what it means.